Alright, hello! I want to get something off my chest, and it's gonna hurt me a bit to say it. Honestly, this year's G1 Climax has been a huge step down from last year's tournament, which was honestly a step down from the 2018 and the 2019 tournaments. And I think it started from the expectations and reactions everyone had from the initial announcement of the block field. Since then, it's been a snowball effect of underwhelming interest. No Jay White, no Will Ospreay, and no Minoru Suzuki. This could have been saved by mixing up the field to have some exciting matches, but the mixture of the blocks don't feel as exciting as prior years. Well, this could have been saved by having unexpected match of the year candidates throughout each of the nights. A majority of the nights have been good, but there's been quite a number of nights that either feel predictable or kind of a lull within the tournament. I'm not gonna sit here and bash this year's G1 for being a bad tournament. I honestly think that it's a good tournament, but it could have been a great tournament. When it comes to wrestling, I'm very passionate about it, and I like to have an optimistic point of view. I do, however, want to recommend matches to any viewer watching this that might be interested in G1 Climax 31. So what I'm going to do with this video is go through each of the 19 nights of the tournament and select one match from each of the night. Either the matches I picked is a great chapter towards an overarching storyline. Maybe it's a big push for an underrated mid-carder, or just an entertaining match that I might consider to be a match of the year candidate. If you do give this tournament a chance, I highly recommend these 19 matches. Shingo vs Ishii is probably the perfect match for any new-time viewer who is interested in watching this year's G1 Climax tournament. Almost 28 minutes of non-stop strong style to really get you excited for the rest of the tournament. It's Okada and Tanahashi. What more can I say? Anytime these two are in the ring together, it's always gonna be fucking gold. Probably my favorite match of the entire tournament is Zack Saber Jr. versus Shingo Takagi. I really like the clash of styles in this match, and Zack is really the MVP of the whole tournament. I'm just gonna get that out of the way. And he really shines as a heel in this match. With the shocked victory at the end of Zack tapping out Shingo Takagi, I'm really looking forward to their potential power struggle match in November. Night 4 is probably the first of the many lull nights of the tournament, but this match was a hidden gem. Jeff Cobb is an outstanding wrestler, and he really shined in this year's tournament, and Yoshihashi is still getting his big push. I feel like Cobb made it work with Yoshihashi in this match. I mean, it's Kota Ibushi and Zack Saber Jr. I just love when these two wrestle each other, I'm not gonna lie. And once again, Zack Saber Jr. playing his part of being this year's MVP. This is probably Yoshihashi's best match in his entire career. And of course, Okada can make anything work with anybody. Zack once again showing why he's this year's G1 Climax MVP. He was able to get a great match out of the Great-O-Khan. I'm not saying that Great-O-Khan is a bad wrestler by any means, but compared to the rest of the roster, he's getting there, if I can say that. He's getting there. And I feel like this was the breakout match for the Great-O-Khan. I honestly think this was better than last year's match these two had with one another. And Sonata, once again, showing why he is a main event player, keeping up with legends like Tanahashi and Okada. This match, if it were longer, probably would have been the match that we would have gotten at the Tokyo Dome back in July. And again, this is hard for me to say. So it's obviously better than their match they had at last year's G1, but it's kind of a running theme of bad luck within New Japan this past year. We could have gotten an amazing classic at the Tokyo Dome tournament, but again, I feel like New Japan has been dealt with a bad hand this year, and I'll get more into why that is in our final match of the tournament. Again, probably one of my favorite rivalries, Okada and Sonata. I loved their series of matches from 2019, and obviously this is up there with one of their best works. Another lull night within the G1 Climax this year. There isn't really anything noteworthy about Night 11, except for this match. This is probably just the best match on the card, and even then, it's kind of botchy from time to time. But, you know, Tongaloa, this is probably Tongaloa's best singles match in his entire career. But, again, Kota Ibushi is up there with one of those wrestlers that can make magic work with anybody. I like their New Beginning and Sapporo match from last year better than this one. But this one's not a bad match by any means. It's great character work by Tai Chi. Tai Chi is the man in this match. And I love his chemistry that he has with Mio Abe. And of course, Okada's fucking Okada. Anything he touches is gold. I'm gonna say this. This is probably Kenta's best singles match in his entire New Japan career. And once again, Zack Saber Jr. proving why he's this year's G1's MVP. I highly recommend this match a whole lot, just to see the type of wrestler Kenta is, and just to see how good Zack Saber Jr. is. I honestly want to see Zack to be in push with the likes of Tanahashi, Okada, Ibushi as a real main event player, and break out of the tag team scene. A pretty great match with Jeff Cobb and Tanahashi. That's pretty much all I could say. I wish it went on a bit longer, though, so we can actually get, like, a G1 Classic. Because I'm sure with these two, if they were to face again, we can get an all-timer match. Probably the Great Khan's first real main event as a breakout wrestler. I'm sure he's still in developmental mode, and I'm sure, like, if you give him another year, he could be a great mid-carder. But, you know, Shingo is an all-timer wrestler, and he's up there with Okada and Ibushi and Tanahashi, who can make magic work with anybody. If this year's G1 goes to show anything, probably the most positive thing about this year's G1 Climax tournament is that it gave a lot of lower mid-carders probably their best singles match in their careers, for likes of Yoshihashi, for Tongaloa, and in this case, Tama Tonga. This is probably the most shocking upset in this year's G1 Climax tournament. And what came before it was actually a pretty great match, I'm not gonna lie. And I highly recommend it if you want to get shocked too. This is more of a rant than anything and stuff. I honestly don't know what's going on with Kenta in his New Japan career. I'm only recommending this match just because it is the A block final. It's nowhere near like any of the other matches that I recommended throughout the tournament. But if you're only interested in seeing who goes to the finals, then I'd recommend you watching this match. It's too botchy though for my case, and I wouldn't rewatch it again. On the other hand, though, the B block final was a fucking banger between Okada and Jeff Cobb. This is another match I highly recommend. If this is how a block match is supposed to be done between these two. And I feel like between the 3 matches they've had this year, this is probably their best work. Yeah, go out of your way to check out this match. And now we come to the finals. And this is where I'm going to go off script and just say my mind. This finals match is probably a perfect metaphor of New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2021. Just when you think everyone is so hyped for seeing an all-timer match, just when things are about to heat up, just when things are about to get good, something unfortunate happens that stops all momentum. And sadly for this case, during the 25-minute mark of this match that was actually about to get real good, like all-timer standards, Ibushi goes for the Phoenix Splash. Okada moves out of the way, and Ibushi lands awkwardly on his arm. And I don't know what the reports say. Either he broke his elbow, broke his wrist, dislocated his shoulder. He suffered an arm injury nonetheless, and it's unfortunate. It is so... This couldn't have come in any worse of a time, really. It's like if WrestleMania ended due to injury, like the main event of a WrestleMania ended because of an injury. And, you know, the match had to be stopped. Red Shoes, call for the bell, ref stoppage, and Okada is your 2021 G1 Climax winner, unfortunately due to ref stoppage. And this just raises more and more concern for not only Ibushi, who's had a pretty rough year on his own, but New Japan as a whole, you know? It raises more questions, it raises more concerns, and honestly, I don't know where they're going to go from here. And it just seems like every opportunity this year with New Japan, they've been dealt a bad hand, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. So honestly, I hope Ibushi gets better. And you know, I bought this year. Steve won. This year has been cursed, man. And I just hope things are better next year. Everyone can, you know, keep their heads up for next year. Everyone can be more cautious next year. And I just miss my New Japan, man. This New Japan is not the same New Japan that I fell in love with Puroresu to begin with all those years ago, to be honest. I don't know what's going on, dude. But I could just be optimistic and say, you know, I hope things get better. So these are the matches that I recommend you guys watching if any one of you are interested in this year's G1 Climax tournament. The 4 matches I highly recommend you going out of your way to watch is obviously Night 1, Shingo Takagi versus Tomohiro Ishii. Such an all-timer match. It's such like a perfect G1 Climax main event for new time viewers. And the second match I obviously recommend you is Tanahashi and Okada. Probably one of the greatest rivalries in all of wrestling history. And this is just another chapter in their long, long rivalry. Third match I recommend is probably my favorite match of the whole tournament. Zack Saber Jr. versus Shingo Takagi. I'd give that one a 5 stars, like straight up. Zack is such a key player in this whole tournament. And I'm honestly quite disappointed that, you know, I really wanted the finals to be Okada versus Zack Saber Jr., to be honest. I love Ibushi, but I feel like 4 in a row might be too much for him. And the last match I highly recommend is Okada versus Jeff Cobb. Probably their best work all this year amongst these two. And no, this year, it was a good tournament and it ended on a sour note. But it could have been a great tournament. And, you know, there's always next year. So with that being said, thank you for all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out more of my content. That is the first time I ever said that, ew. And yeah, with that being said, I'll see you.
Let there be rain, and there was rain. Let there be rain, and there was rain. Ooh, me.